Hi, everyone. Yeah, great transition from buyer enablement. Thanks so much. And good after we broke the ice with a little bit of tech issues, I'm ready to go over here. Really excited to be here. So just to introduce myself real quick, Gal, CEO and co-founder of Align. I know the concept is keeping it short and sweet, so I'll give you a little bit of context and with some slides, and then we'll get going. Just a little bit about myself. Really, before founding a startup, I was in tech sales myself, 15 years, mostly enterprise sales. Have had a chance to build 4 sales organization as VP sales, CRO. So really, I've been in your shoes, going for the 1 to 10, 20 to million ARR at these multiple roles. And we built really a product to solve challenges that we experienced. So I'd love to take you through that journey and as we go through the demo as well. So let me share here the screen. All right. So really the concept of what we're trying to do, and I'm going to just talk about the problem in a few slides and really dive in, is for us, it started with an obsession. My co-founder and I really worked together at the same startup, and we were always trying to figure out what makes the difference between the top 1% that are consistently overachieving and yet so many reps are missing targets. And if you look at the last quarter numbers by rep view, over 65% have missed Q4. And really, we kept asking the question of why. And when we started diving in a bit more, we just saw that sales is complex. It's not getting any easier. And fortunately, so many reps out there, so many of us are just struggling to manage that complexity. And if you look into stats, into the numbers, and you research this more, we just have more stakeholders than ever. It actually almost doubled in the last decade. And so many deals out there are lacking enough multi-threading, and we have more people to influence. There's more budget scrutiny than ever, and it's really a challenge to go and enable a champion to go and fight internally to get things approved. Sales is so many moving parts, right? Especially with multiple stakeholders and budget scrutiny. You have POCs and you have competitors, and there's so many things to manage. And the last piece, and especially ironically, the bigger the organization, there are just not so many teams out there that have a really clear prescribed process that most of the teams are following. But the biggest aha moment really for us was when we realized what the top 1% are doing. They're not selling, they're focused on enabling the buyer, while the majority are pushing, pitching, and right, we're all hearing about the spray and praise ending and the death of the SDR and things like that, of outbound, of cold outbound, like people are shouting things like that. And that's the reason, because really the reality is that the average seller today is struggling because so very little buyers really feel that they add value. According to Forrester, only 33%. And what the top 1% really get is that it's not about them. It's about really crafting a journey, creating an experience that supports the buyer. They understand that another stat from Gartner, that only 5% of the buying journey is actually spent with you. So your role as a seller is really to drive what happens during the rest of the time. And that buying has gotten so complex, and that complexity is what's killing our deals. We get ghosted because we don't add value, and we get single-threaded and not introduced to other stakeholders because we're not focused on them enough. And of course, the dreadful no decision is because it's much easier to go with the status quo. So that's essentially what we came here to build, and Aligned, what it is, it's a customer-facing collaboration platform. Many would call it a deal room for sales, or a customer portal or boarding platform for CS, that helps you really standardize and run the perfect process across sales and CS teams, that solves for a better experience and for managing the complexity, both on the seller and on the buyer side. We'll focus on sales today. And really for AEs, you can think about it as a tool for the first time that helps with your end-to-end deal execution, right? Champion building, buyer engagement, multi-threading, mutual action plans, tracking buying signals around the blind spots in your deals, which essentially all translate really directly into win rate, ACV, and deal velocity. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So essentially, Aligned allows you to build rooms. Rooms are these spaces, these customer-facing spaces where you work with your customers throughout the entire process. And each room would represent essentially a customer that you're working with, right? So let's say we're selling here today to Microsoft, and I'm going to not just walk you through the product, I'm actually going to walk you through a real example of one of our customers, Sarah Brazier from Gong, who used to work at Gong, and I'm going to just walk you through her template. So based on her process and how she was using Aligned to sell at Gong, we really turned this into a template, and we have a lot of them, and you can grab it later for free using the product. So let's start. So basically, the way the Aligned, the way that our processes really today works is that when we end a demo, any intro call, the way that we typically go about it is we send an email, and then we send a lot of links, and then we send maybe a value summary or challenges of what we've heard, and then that turns into additional emails and additional stakeholders that are getting looped in, and all of that gets into back and forth with decision supporting materials that are really lost between the threads. People looped in late, they're not familiar with where we are in the process, or what are the things that they need to be aware about in order to make a decision. So you're trying to make your case, we're trying to help your champion make a case internally, but the tools that we're using are not really helping us do that in a great way. So instead of just going about it like that, after a demo, you can just go from a template, open something like this in around a minute or two, just share it, a simple URL, and that link already impresses and already just makes it much easier for your buyers to buy and for you to engage. So for example, Sarah here includes a welcome video into her room, something that shows like a process overview, where we are in the process. You can even end the first call, and at the end of the first call, flip your screen and start walking through where we are in the process and talk about that. Of course, call recordings, and we integrate to Gong and other tools. Here's our deck. Here's our maybe other elements of the product that we wanted to showcase. G2 reviews, we have things like a team module where it really helps you go and creates that more sense of togetherness. And then final piece that typically many customers will include in the first on the first share would be something like a CTA section, which really allows you to guide customers. What are the typical things that other customers have found, other prospects have found useful, and then they can click on them, and that could drive for you analytics on what's interesting for them, or that can drive actions and automations and kind of a guidance in the process. So that's already kind of much better, right, than an email. And the way for me to go and just share it would be something like this, copying the link and just sharing it like that. Okay, another thing that I could have done, and let's say I'm moving to edit mode. Right now, edit is what I see as a seller, preview is what the customer sees, exactly what the customer sees. So one key thing I mentioned earlier is about standardization. So sales leaders can go and use this and go and say, we want to standardize the entire process. And when there's a pilot, we want people to move to the pilot tab. And when the business case is starting to get built, so you can have these things hidden by default, and AE really sharing something that's more lean and really that grows as the deal progresses, as we're showing right now. So for example, maybe a week later, or maybe there was something that was mentioned during the call and I want to engage between meetings. Instead of just sending another email and another follow-up, I want to make sure that everyone will make sure that they see this case study. So I'll go and unhide this element, and I can go and, for example, tag someone. Let's say I'll tag Aaron from Pavilion on this. Sorry, Aaron, everyone is seeing your email. Okay, and that's basically it. This is going to sync into their email, and I'm going to say something more interesting than "Hey, Aaron," of course. But you can essentially kind of continue adding value into the room as the deal progresses, and replace your just dull, hey, just following ups with more value add follow-ups. Also, this allows you really to keep conversations, key conversations in one place. So let's say I decided that I want to add a competitive comparison, which, by the way, everything is included here. So I'll go into this and I'll add versus competition. I won't do this right now. And you'll see, a table with competition, and then we could start having discussion about a specific competitor, and all of that discussion can be kept in the context of that specific section, which really helps consolidate and helps really making sure that I want that differentiation message to really come through, right? And that's going to happen. So that really kind of would work, and use this really throughout the process. And this is how I'm using this stage. So I will go and unhide that. So the way that Sarah's been using this is she's been tackling success criteria, screen sharing, making this, by the way, if you unlock, you can have your customers contributing into the success criteria, and then you can have some back and forth asynchronously. As you go through this, you can have the results there, and then they can show this internally to their manager. You can have a business case when Sarah kind of moves more down the process than what she typically does in her room is have the business case there, ROI, proposals, commercial, back and forth. You can see here I have some unread messages, even things like the MSA. So think about, you're typically kind of starting to go with the legal team in parallel, or the security team, data privacy officer, and you're having a lot of back and forth, and your champion, you want to keep them in the loop, or they want to just check in once in a while. They can do that. All of the MSA collaboration is going to be here, all of the track changes, and then the comments are going to be here. Okay, like, hey, I accepted most changes that Emma here replied to me directly. Okay, so we can have PandaDoc, DocuSigns, all of these things embedded as well. Another key thing is mutual action plan. So think about, that spreadsheet that, from our experience, really what we've seen is very few teams have been making that to really work. It's an adoption challenge. Most of these are adoption challenge. They're meant to be mutual action plans, not just, hey, here's the actions that I want you to take, which what a spreadsheet really conveys. Plus, it doesn't sync to the CRM. It doesn't allow standardization. It's not very friendly, and it's detached from where we're buying and selling. So when you have something like a success plan, mutual action plan in a tab, exactly where we're doing that back and forth process around success criteria, pilot, business case, then really increases the likelihood. It makes things much more collaborative and easy to use. In addition to having also a lot of features, I can have back and forth conversation around specific tasks. I can have subtasks like in this one. I can have attachments. I can have descriptions. I can have reminders getting sent to you, right? So all of these things are really going to drive much easier adoption of the mutual action plan. So a few final quick things here. So I mentioned standardization. So Align really allows you to either go and build using building blocks. We integrate with over 50 tools and add Gong and add a lot of tools. You can go and pull things from a library, for example, of case studies or whatever it would be. Let's take like a demo, for example, here. And I can pull this into the room. I can go into creating new things from scratch. And then the last piece would be the analytics. So key thing we mentioned, like 95% of the buying journey happens when you're not in the room. So really for the first time, a tool like Align gives you the visibility into that super valuable behind the scenes data. What are my buyers doing? Not only are they opening emails? Who is entering the room? What are they doing? At what stage are we at? You can identify risks, intent, interest. So I can see here, for example, that Satya Nadella, entered our room over here and viewed for 43 seconds at the second slide. And I can get context. Okay, I'm right now waiting for a decision, and the CEO is entering, viewing the deck. Which slides is he viewing? Maybe I want my VP sales to go and reach out, or my CEO to go and reach out to Satya. That's probably a better idea, with some kind of a message that's tailored to this, right? So all of that can give you context. And the last thing is multi-threading. There are so many times, right? We have so many stakeholders that are involved. They're behind the scenes. They're influencing. They're part of the process. but we're not aware of who they are or what they're doing. And really Aligned helps you uncover hidden stakeholders. That's one of the biggest things that we hear from our customers. So these are people that would get forwarded materials internally. And because right now there's no forwarded materials, just one URL that your buyers will go and share very happily internally, then you can unlock these hidden stakeholders, see their CRM, see their LinkedIn profile, and all of these gets synced to the CRM. It's enriching the CRM. You can even update the CRM directly from Aligned. So really everything is built very deeply together over here.
Amazing.
So
that's just amazing, guys. So thank you so much. So here, make sure that you reach out, you get in touch. We've shifted to a world of buyer-led sales, and buyer enablement is one of the most important things that you can have, and you are doing a phenomenal job there. In fact, based upon the 2024 B2B benchmarks that Pavilion just co-released,